where are we? What are we? And where are we headed? Tell me where we're going. Drive me around. Tell me about your vision. Tell me about the properties you want to buy. Include me along. I need clarity. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Purpose and Powerful podcast. Tonight we're talking about dating in the church. I'm your co-host, Erica Lester, and with me I have my wonderful co-host, the real Jabril Wilson.
How's it going?
Excellent.
Well, how are you?
I'm good. I can barely hear you, Tanya.
Awesome. So why date in the church? Well, we did some research in 2022. An organization called Social found that 11% of people meet their marriage partner at church. And of that percentage, 1% of people actually meet their one night stand at church, which I thought was very crazy. But hey, you got the people in the world, you got the worldly people in the church. It's bound to be a possibility. So we have the lovely Miss Tanya McDougall here to talk to us about dating in the church, and we're going to ask some questions and take some questions from the audience to get some understanding, clarification, and find out, is meeting someone at church a good idea, and can it work? So one of the questions that we had are, what are some benefits you think that might be for dating someone in the church?
Okay. Well, number one, it takes away the possibility or the chance of like stranger danger. Is the best way that I can say that. Number two would be another benefit would be basically that you're meeting someone at church that you know is receiving the same teaching, like your faith, basis of your faith and what you believe and how you believe will be similar. And then the other is, for me, what I consider a good benefit is that you get the opportunity to actually witness firsthand the spiritual growth of the person and their relationship with God, but also you'll get to see firsthand how they interact with others because of the actual church setting.
So as I understand it, you have some experience personally with that. Is that how you met your partner when you did date someone? I believe he was in the church and you obviously were in the church. Did you meet in a church setting or outside of that?
We did. I was actually part of a recording choir that was preparing to go to tour in Germany, and he was the drummer. And he had been to several of our church services and had inquired about me in reference to wanting to get to know me better. I actually met that person by introduction through my pastor. And I wish I knew those benefits then that I know now. We might not have met, but I learned a lot. I will say I learned a lot. Yes. As a matter of fact, I've met two of the relationships that I've been in where there was a form of introduction to the church.
Okay, awesome. And so then in doing that research, here are 3 things that came up on benefits. And it speaks to what you've said too. It says the person's character is on display. You can determine if you are spiritually compatible, and you can perceive if they have the same spiritual mission. All relevant. Okay, so now those are benefits. So what may be some of the drawbacks concerning dating someone in the church?
A main drawback is your relationship is on display for everybody, and your personality, let me say it this way: the two people that are involved in the relationship would have to be very careful. One of the drawbacks is everybody being in your business, and or the expectation of others either stopping your relationship from progressing or make the pressure of others making the relationship move too fast. And I experienced that personally. Was once the mindset of the church in general, not necessarily speaking as a fact, but it is once people see that someone's in a relationship and they quote unquote, it looks as if what they seem to be is like, oh, this person is really happy. They'll push it to the altar for marriage before the two people are really understanding the dating process. So I think one of the major drawbacks is your relationship being on display, and then the peer pressure of others placing expectations on the relationship that the two people may not be ready for.
Another one was found that they said a bad breakup because now everybody knows about it.
Yes.
And so then you
Yes.
say, would you leave your church, if it didn't work out? Or you're saying, well, this was my church and you came and you were a visitor here, so maybe you need to find yourself a new church.
Even with my daughter, she's been a member of the church. The young man that she's dating actually joined the church. And one of the first questions that I asked was, hey, if y'all break up, where does that leave your relationship with church you're now a member of? And are the two of you mature enough to handle being in the same congregation, although you're no longer a couple?
Wow, that's excellent. Jabril, what you have for us? I know you definitely got some great questions to ask.
Great, not just questions, but comments, and thank you for sharing that. But it's kind of like dating somebody at a job, but except it's every week, or it could be in the ministries, and let's just say that the relationship doesn't work. But I mean, in churches and even in life, in the streets, there's a shortage of men based on statistics. So that means that there is another woman or women praying and maybe excited that relationship didn't work out. How do you feel going to church, saying the person you were dating last Easter and now with a new Easter bunny, and you're there, and you're not, and you may be serving them communion or something, and you see that? How would you feel about it?
Where I was then, I wasn't able to handle it. I think my feelings would more so be dependent upon the personal relationship that I have with the person that they're now dating. So if it's someone that I didn't really talk to or have a relationship with, our interaction with each other is basically dealing with church, or I may see you every now and then in Walmart or at the movies. I don't know if it would bother me as much. I haven't ever experienced that, but what I will say that based on the two people communicating at the time of the breakup, and if there's a communication that takes place that the two people actually understood that the relationship needed to end, then there's a strong possibility that you're glad to see them with someone else. As a good example is my daughter's father had a child from a lady that was part of the ministry of which, and we're still members of the same church. A lady that was part of the ministry. The very first time I saw them together, it was like, ugh, kind of like a hit in the stomach. But I had to acknowledge that I had already made up in my mind. Members of the same church anyway. So I respected the decision that he had made, and today, the three of us are good friends. So I think it just depends on the maturity of the two people at the time.
Right, the maturity, but it could be embarrassing. I would say I mention this, and then you got to think about it, Erica. Huh? You said?
Oh, I was thinking that was my response. I was just saying, did you have anything else to add to the question?
Oh, well, definitely. I wanted to just say, and thank you for sharing that. It's also a different level, ladies and gentlemen, watching that. I said, if there's a leader in the church, let's say you're dating Pastor Leader Bobby, and Pastor Leader Bobby I mean, it's a lot of women who may want Pastor Leader Bobby, but for one reason, he's saying that the two of you are together. So you date this guy or this leader, and it doesn't work out. I've seen situations where the Pastor Leader Bobby may say, let's just keep this between us because of my leadership position. We don't want to tell everyone quite yet, which now you're in a situation where nobody knows. And if something happens that could hurt you, who do you go to? Do you stay in the church? Do you go to the other leadership? And I'll just say that usually it doesn't happen like this with men, but when I was really looking for God, full transparency, I started wanting to date women who were really into the church. And I really thought that that was going to help me escape. But unfortunately, I found that they were still human. They still had needs and all of that. And now I'm looking, I'm just out of Bible stuck in my mouth and looking like a little kid. And it was no one I could run to. I did go to the pastors. And it just imagine a man going to the pastors and saying, you can't play. It just looked it was really embarrassing. And I stepped away from the church for about 5 years. I didn't go back to that church. Yes, because then I believed that it was nowhere to go, that all women were bad no matter where they are. And that just kind of messed me up. So I think that I know for a woman, it's got to be even worse. But what do you do when the leader is the person and something doesn't go right? Where do you turn, or do you leave the church, or how would you do? So we're talking beyond being mature. We're talking about seeing somebody in a high place that you caught feelings for, and now have you seen or experienced that? And I'm asking for me, but I'm also asking for women that I know have experienced this. And usually with these certain leaders, they've had multiple women, so they're not dating; they're playing these women in the church based off their authority, using the name of Jesus to get more leverage, and then the women are embarrassed. I don't want to say not as bad, but something that's in the church that is just going on and can be going on for years.
I agree. I also think in situations like what you just mentioned, that one of the disadvantages, especially with being the pastor and or a leader in the church, is that everything, if that leader or pastor is not careful, I believe sometimes, and it's just a personal opinion, I believe sometimes that they allow their personal lives to become public too soon. I love the way Tony Evans did, the way he had brought public the fact that he was now engaged, and there wasn't a lot of, I would quote unquote say, advertisement of the fact that he was dating. For women, what I will say is that we really have more control than we give ourselves credit for in situations like that. Because first thing I'm gonna do is try to protect myself from the embarrassment or shame of it ending. And church people have a bad habit, a very bad habit, of trying to deem who's worthy of being with that leader or that pastor. And it could be somebody that pastor or leader is really what we would say vibing with. Like they're you could tell that they could be more than just the dating. But the mindset of the church says she doesn't fit the image, or she's not going to be able to portray the role. You said something very powerful earlier when you were talking. Remembering that leader, and it can be man or woman, that leader, once that title leaves, they're a man or a woman. They're capable of being good. They're capable of being bad. They're capable of anything that of the natural and of the flesh. So when the expectation is for those type of relationships to be perfect, and then all of a sudden there's a breakup, if someone was to come and ask me, and you see the level of pain or hurt that they're actually going through, I would say, hey, I advise you to find a new ministry. If it's something that you cannot sit, because once again it goes back to communication. If it's something that you cannot sit down and communicate with each other effectively, do what you need to do to save yourself and leave, man or woman.
Or even if you don't, thank you, Tanya, even if you don't leave for good, maybe take a sabbatical and go somewhere else.
Take a sabbatical, yes, yes. Because one thing about people, out of sight, out of mind, you go for a little bit, they'll forget about it. Because it's not always in their face. Oh, I wonder
Right.
is she feeling
Right.
it? Because girl, you
Right.
get somebody for
It's too much.
that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And you're not focusing on God when you're going to church. You end up being a spy, and you're hanging in the pews looking at who they're with. And that's not good. You don't want
Yes.
that's traumatizing. All right. Well, thank you for being real with that. I thought about it. Now, what about somebody who's unequally yoked?
That's exactly where I was going.
You wanna
You're
bring
hitting the
somebody into the
vein.
church? You want to clean somebody up, find them at the grocery store, or he was fixing your tire, and you said, "Hey, you want to come on in?" I said somebody unequally yoked.
And then it kind of faded out.
So we're receiving interference on both ends because I can barely hear you either. I think you sound like you're in another galaxy. It's choppy.
Let me try this. Okay.
I want to make sure you can hear me and the audience can hear me because the question I asked was crucial, and we're hitting a crossroad within the part of the show, and we want to ask about the women or men who bring somebody into the church to help save them or clean them up, and you're unequally yoked. And the only reason he's going to church is to please you, not really to please God. And that will be discovered very quickly within a few weeks, if not a year, if you continue to date. Did you hear me?
Okay, here's my thoughts.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I have thoughts. The first would be, and if I understood you correctly, the person is coming to church. The goal is for them to get in a relationship with God, as you know they should have, but that's their only motive. That's their only agenda is I'm coming to church because we're in this relationship. And am I understanding you correctly? And so the relationship with God may not be on the forefront of the intentions of as part of the intentions of the relationship. Is that correct?
Right. In a way, you know how men are. I mean, a man want to say, I want to take you out to eat. And you say, well, we're having a church banquet. Let this be the first time we meet. So then now you bring him to church on that Saturday evening and you want him to come Sunday, the next day to start. So you use the church to try to also have an accountability bridge and let it be public so that your leaders can protect you and pray for you and you can meet the new person. It's just like bringing them to your family, to a family cookout, but you're bringing them to a church function. And now the expectation is hopefully he'll start coming with you to church, but you're unequally yoked. He doesn't have a church home. He really doesn't go to church. He hasn't been in a while. He goes when I guess on certain times, but you would be the person or the true reason he's going. It's not because he found God and all of a sudden he's been led.
Okay, so I have a rule.
Okay.
And I don't allow. I'm very protective about how soon someone that I'm in a relationship with comes to my house. And because I consider my church family, I'm very careful about allowing church settings to be considered a date. I'll tell you about it, and you may have the option. You can choose whether you will come or not. But it goes back to what you said. It's like once you bring that relationship, or better word would be friendship, to the forefront of your leaders and the people that are in the church that are more than likely going to be very protective of you and your well-being. They may be placing caution too soon. So I just don't allow church to be what we would consider a date. We got revival going on. I would love for you to come. And I wouldn't even sit with that person in the service to make sure that they understood that their purpose for being there was in reference to, if I'm going to be the open door for them to receive Christ or learn more about Christ, then I have to be very careful not to, I would say, interfere or interrupt that. I think that's the word I'm trying to come up with. But Yeah, now on that, I would have to say I've never allowed church to be what we would consider a date. So, but I get it. It happens. And it happens a lot. But
Well, no one says it's a date. Just like you could be with somebody for 3 or 4 months, and you're always hanging around. Nobody says you quote unquote go together, but the expectations and how that looks, the appearance of. That's why you pose an interesting point, Tanya, by saying that you would have this person come to church. You invited them, but you're not sitting with them. You've created a separation. But if you're going to do that, and this be real, why don't you invite 3 or 4 other guys and lead them to Christ at the church? Because if that's not someone that you're trying to let them hear God and see God, bring a few. I would. I mean, I'm not even being facetious. I'm just
and
thinking.
that's really good because once again it sets the boundary for if we're going to get to know each other, we're going to get to know each other within both settings, within the church and outside of the church. So yes, because it is like a public event that's taking place at the church, there should not be any harm in the fact that I've invited several other guys to come and be a part of the revival. Now, I think where it comes in question is when there's like banquets and there's like places where quote unquote you're supposed to be like as a couple, and then you invite this person, and that person once again goes back up under the definition that you mentioned. I don't know because I just never really allowed it. I mean, by the time that the guy came to church in our dating process, we had already been talking uh, marriage. I think one of my main drawbacks, that's the word, one of my main drawbacks when it comes to, especially when comes to someone not being um, where you are in your relationship with God, unequally yoked, is the fact that it's just so much pressure from people. Sometimes we don't even realize that pressure is affecting us in our decision of how we're going to handle or be in that relationship. So I might not have answered that.
You did in your way. You answered the way you understood it to be asked, and I appreciate that.
But here's another thing too, if I may. What
Sure.
I've also learned through experience is that unequally yoked outside of the spiritual realm is making sure that the person that you're dating, please, women and men that are listening, please make sure you have the same morals, you have similar values, you have a similar quality of life principles, because what I've found and what I've seen firsthand is there's so much uh, connection when it comes to God and the scripture. But um, outside of that, they're two totally opposite people that's always bumping heads. They can get it together when it means coming to church to present that image, but they don't have the same morals. They don't have the same values. And so um, they struggle. They struggle in actually building the foundation because someone told them in whatever setting, whether it was at home, church, friends, family, folks, I don't know. But
Hmm.
somebody told them that that's all it took. And it takes more than that. It's gonna take God, yes. But it's those everyday, what some older people consider like those common sense qualities of life, lessons in life, that if you're not sharing the same thing, there's no way that you can say you're equal if your mindset isn't the same or all of that.
What would you think about how long, in your opinion, is I don't know if you're dating right now, but if you are, how long do you think you should be dating before you decide to get married? And of course, the man is usually supposed to ask, but for you to even accept that type of proposal.
I believe that time frame will vary for different relationships. What's very key is that those two people communicate to even in the very beginning to even be on the same understanding that that's the potential or possibility, the end result being marriage. I younger, he would say and do certain things, and I just automatically told myself that was going to be the end result, and marriage was nowhere on his mind. So, but then I met someone who had been married before, and he had already made up in his mind. Listen, I don't want to date long. I want. We got a 3 to 6 month time frame. I'm gonna already know, and this needs to be something that you want to do. And if it doesn't, I don't want to waste your time dating. So I think it just varies. So I do believe that there. And so let me say this: I believe that there's a too soon, but I also believe that it should not take forever. I don't believe that people should be in relationship for years at a time and marriage never is discussed or brought to the table.
Well, that's the flip side. I appreciate that, Tanya. We appreciate it. So what's the longest where you say, hey, this is not working. I need to let this go because this person has kept me on layaway too long. And now I'm not able to get
Sorry. Say it again. He got you where?
on layaway.
Listen, you just almost made me run out this office.
What you say?
I know, right?
What she
I
say?
know.
You don't lay away for no whole shit. Walmart don't even give you a year.
What she
That's
say?
right.
What did she say?
She said she's not going to be on layaway. Layaway is 3 months. That's 90-day layaway policy. So the term layaway, but it gives perspective because what she said was so key that you need to establish, and do not miss this, whether you're male or female, you need to establish where is the destination. Like, that's great. We boy meets girl. We like each other. I'm attracted to you. I fantasize about you, whatever that case may be. But we need to have a destination already in mind pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm feeling you, you're feeling me. I want to be married. Like, I need to know your path. If you follow me anywhere on social media in our Purpose and Powerful Podcast Facebook group, I posted this clip from a podcast event. And what the lady was saying, she could write a whole dissertation on how I feel as a woman. But specifically, she was like, tell me where we're going. Drive me around. Tell me about your vision. Tell me about the properties you want to buy. Include me along. I need clarity in where we're going. And all women do have this innate, where are we? What are we? And where are we headed? Every time, even if she's not asking, even if she's not saying it, she already knows when she's in love with you, and the questions are already right there. So it's just, you're telling me you love me, you telling me you feel like this, and we'll hang in there with you because of our heart hanging already. And so we're looking for that. So love for men, one of my friends said she teaches Sunday school into her kids or whatever. And I think Coach Rose even said this, is love for a man is, I'm feeling you, I'm here, I'm dedicated, but it doesn't have a time limit. It's like, for now, this works. But for us, it's like, we're thinking long term. We're not thinking you're feeling and everything's great for 90 days or 6 months or whatever. So layaway isn't on our mind. Like I said, we're only entrenched because we believe the destination ends in the white picket fence, house and all of that. But we don't know. And so we're there 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. And like, Tanya and I was having this conversation before. It's like, don't misread loyalty. Loyalty for a man is usually what's good for right now until something better comes along. Because if a man wants you, he will say that. If he wants exclusivity, he will say that. He can tell you, a man that can tell you what kind of car he wants, what color he wants, that he takes care of the car, washes it every day, every week. He goes to the gym religiously and all of that. You're trying to tell me with this woman that's in your life and you don't know where you want for the destination? Yeah, So stop playing. Stop playing games. And ladies, stop acting bashful. This is your life. What turned into weeks turns into months. And before you know it, turns into years. Your childbearing years are gone. All the things you wanted to do are gone. And you're looking back with a bunch of regret. And you should have just let him go. So I would say to you, you need to develop your own time limit. Not so much a relationship, but for you to have the conversation about where you want to be headed, what you desire in a relationship, what is your end destination, and what is your timeline, so that he can pick and choose and say, I'm feeling you, but I don't want that. And you can let your heart off the hook by saying, let's just go somewhere else.
Yeah, and sometimes we're afraid of, and thank you for that, as a mouthful and a tongue. For I saw Tanya stick her tongue out on some of that, so she really was feeling this and understanding it. But I'm gonna just say this to you: a lot of times, women, what I've noticed, and men, do not want rejection. But I would rather have a rejection. It's not even a rejection; it's just clarity in the truth. Year one or month two, than 3 years later. And and you created this story and this image, and you try to keep it up, and it's not going to stick, because men do know what they want, and they also know what they don't want. But just because they don't want you doesn't mean they may not want you on that level, or the level you want. So that's also being unequally yoked, because this man could be a great husband to someone, but he can't be a great husband to you because you're not his husband, and he doesn't want to be with you. See, so it's kind of what you would say, oh, that person is mean. So I've seen some women, oh my goodness. I mean, I thought I couldn't imagine them talking to anybody. I mean, grouchy. I mean, just when they get with the right husband, they're so soft and sweet. And I'm saying, I didn't even know she had in it, because that was the right man for her. And that is who she decided to take that monster, all of that away, and show the beauty of her. But have you seen people like that? Well, you see them, men and women, and you say, I couldn't imagine anybody getting with them. But once they get with the right person, they totally change. And I give you a flip.
Right.
You see somebody who's married to somebody and they were great, and then they lose them, unfortunately. God forbid they lose them in death. And now they just seem shattered, and they just can't get it together, because that bone is gone. That rib is gone. And so the right person will make you do what you said you never would do, go where you said you never would go, think the way you never would think, and then bring the best out of you, whether you want it or not, because God is in that. And that's why we don't even choose our spouse. God chooses it, because he wants the best for us, not the rest of the crumbs, what we think appears to be something solid, which is not. I've been there. And this is my third. I've been engaged 3 or 4 times, but married twice. So it can happen easily. You could say things, propose, get a ring, but it doesn't guarantee. And especially if God is not in it, you're going to have a lot of rings and a lot of disappointments and a lot of regrets overall.
Yes.
But I don't want us to gloss over this fact. The reason why in any relationship, and most especially in the church, that you have situations where it ends badly is because sex was involved. And typically women put their heart where their body is. So you, especially if you say, I love you, you exchange that. And then sexually it's hard to disconnect yourself from the love that you say that you have, which makes that breakup that much worse. And so the other part of this is that we don't want to gloss over is the fact that women, stop dragging these men to church. You know who you have. You already know where he stands. So you cannot love him to Jesus before his time. This is not possible, because he's not ready. You cannot make him into the spiritual being that he is not. You know he was worldly when you met him. If that's what you accepted, you're going to have to accept the timeline of when his appointed time comes up to be saved, sanctified, and filled with the Holy Ghost. But don't think because you got him going to church with you, that's somehow going to make that work for you. Because there's countless women in the church that go to church and the husband's at home, the boyfriend's at home or somewhere else, yet you're still with him and you're praying that he gets saved. You're not going to be the voice to help him out, because you needed to stand on principle. If you wanted it to be about God, as Jabril said last week, we hold a lot of keys. So if you want him to stand up to the master, don't sleep with him, and all will be well.
No cookies, no commitment, no cookies.
Situations, whether it's in the church or not, that's one of the main factors that causes it. Well, I'll say it this way. that's one of the main factors that stops it from making it to the altar. Those older people, the older generation, they got it right. I just didn't like the way it was said to me. Why is he going to buy the milk when he's getting the cow free? So once you place, and here's another thing that I found out from my experience from past relationships, is once I set those boundaries and I did not allow those boundaries to be infraction, I made sure they stayed in place to the best of my ability. It made the guy respect me more because I stood on my ground and said, hey, listen, I done this before. And because of the sexual part of the relationship, he lost focus of the conversation we had initially in reference to there's a possibility we're going to get married. So sometimes women, we give ourselves to a man sexually as part of the way of expression to identify for the man to be able to understand just how much we're really in love with them. And from my past experience, it wasn't required. Either he was going to believe it out of my mouth, and based on how I treated him and respected him and honored him in the relationship, that ain't got nothing to do with sex.
Love that. Thank you for clarifying.
Yes, thank you so much for bringing that out.
That's right. Holding the keys, right? Jabril?
You got to hold the keys. That definitely the key is it.
Given that.
No, it is the key. I mean, it's just that sometimes you hold the key and you give somebody the key, then you running after them, asking them back. And if you don't give them the key and break down, you give them limited access. You give us limited access, because when you give someone too much access before they deserve it, it's hard to get them out. It really is. It's hard to take. When you give somebody something, it's hard to take it back. It may hurt you just as much as it hurt them. You know,
that's a good tip.
Right, because let's say it's a leader in the church and you deal with them one way in the church, or she. Then all of us, I mean, you see them in a private setting, then they in church, you got to call them bishop this and that and all that, but you know that's not what you call them after hours on off time. And it's kind of, that's when the respect level, the boundaries, and I mean, I'm just telling you that it got heated with a situation where I ended up getting hurt a little bit and got into my feelings, and I lost respect, and I challenged them when they wanted to leave me alone, because I didn't see that happening. They had presented it as if God had spoke to them, and I was new to learning about God and accepting him. So I felt like they were here to save me and help me and lead me to God. And when they finished with whatever they wanted, then they said God told them to leave me alone. Now, this was 2 days prior to them showing me a few other tricks outside of the church. So to me, I didn't really believe in, I lost a lot of faith in God and all of that, and people and women in the church, leaders especially. And again, just imagine you're embarrassed. It's kind of like how you did things on the street, but now it's flipped to you, and it's flipped on you in a boomerang situation in a church when my guards were down.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, that went like I was supposed to get married to that person. I gave keys to my car and stuff. They took me to the airport. By the time I got back, I think I had a birthday. 2 days later, they hit me with God said, leave me. Wow. Yes, I asked for my keys back.
I know. Hey, I understand.
Hey, look. You know what's messed up? Let me tell you what's messed up. And I don't know, because I think women have done this too. I thought she was going to say, no, that's all right. You know, she said, okay, and just gave me the keys back. Now that made it even worse. I said, dang, you're not going to fight. I said, dang, I've been. So I learned that you can't play with anyone in any atmosphere. The principles are still the same and people are still the same.
Yes. And you know, to coincide with what you said,
yes,
I dated someone that wasn't necessarily like pastoring, but he was an apostle. So in my mindset, he was gonna do everything right. And it was so much so we had discussed marriage, we had discussed moving, we had discussed you know, how life would be in the state he lived in versus how life is here. Our families had come together, and then all of a sudden he's gonna move, and I done gave him all the keys. I'm talking about the whole set.
And the cookies, the keys, the milk. I get it. I got it. I hear
Yes.
you. I've been there too. I've been there too. I'm telling you, it's and you feel.
Yes. And I'm like, when we finally got a chance to talk, my thing was, when you changed your mind, all you had to do was tell me. The hurt I would have felt then would not have been anything compared to the hurt, embarrassment I'm experiencing this day, because people were prepared for that major change to take place in my life. The me that I am impacts a whole community of people.
Absolutely.
And they're preparing themselves for me to no longer be a part.
I get
and
it.
Man, is what I'm going to say I see. God would never.
You said what?
And never tell me you changed your mind. The only advantage that I had in that situation was he was not a member of my church, but I met him in church.
Exactly. Yeah.
I would say those situations when they said, you know, he that findeth and he looking out in the congregation and he saw me. So it fit the scripture based on what the image that he portrayed in my head. That was the reason why he needed to meet me. So I had already went to the to the storybook with the fairy tale ending at the mid-fact of the way that it started. I wish in today's society, and especially after you get a certain age, being I'm closer to 60 than 50, I just need you to just be honest and tell the truth. I just need you to be man enough, or for guys, women enough to say, it's no longer working. I changed my mind. It ain't even nothing wrong with you. But it has to be some form of communication to where people's heart aren't broken. And I think, Jabril, you said it perfectly when you said it made you lose faith in people of God as well as God. And people don't always understand when they impact your heart with pain like that, the result of, what all it can actually cause.
Wow, I love that. So here's a question. We will move forward and wrap up tonight. In singles ministry, and I believe that you've led singles ministry, it's for the single person, but it doesn't really typically embrace the single couple. So you have couples ministry, which is only for married couples. And I think the churches has a vacuum for that space, because once you enter in dating, you need the counseling before the marriage, before the engagement, so that you can have someone pray over your union and make sure you're on the right path, that you want God to be your head and you want to be at the basis, working towards him, moving towards him as you move closer to each other after that, to keep him at the center, like Jabril alluded to. Without God, is not going to last anyway. But a dating in the church is not dating in the world. Not if you're saying we've come together for like-minded faith. It's set apart from that. So I think with that regard, we need to stop just having couples ministry for just married people and having singles for just the one person that's independent, because technically you're both still single anyway, but there's no special niche that carves it out that says, I want to work with you. You're dating somebody? Are they at church, in church? Let me just tell you, these are some of the things you might want to think about. You're churched and this person's unchurched. So if you decide to marry this person, you can't be stressed out because they don't come to church with you. You were making it acceptable for them not to come to church with you all this time. So don't think because you got married that that's supposed to be a condition of the relationship. You accepted that already.
Where I believe, in personal opinion, where the church has failed us is that those two single people that are now in a relationship, we don't give them the the realistic experience that takes place while they're in that dating process. Here's where the church can regain themselves is by, once you see that those two people are dating, yes, I need you to teach me of the possibilities of what can happen, in the process of leading to marriage. But I also need for you to tell me how to handle, and I'm just being real transparent right here. Tell me how to handle. We done been out a couple of times. I'm tired of holding hands. I want to kiss, but I know what kissing does for me. So I don't want him to feel rejected if kissing isn't an option, because what do I do with that? What do I do when my nature wants to control versus what my mouth is actually saying? What is it that we do when an argument takes place to where we're not falling out and now we're pulling other people into our situation because we're getting advice from everybody but God, because at this moment we're mad and we no longer want God to be a part. So I believe with what you said, and then combined with what the reality of being single and dating, really the real life of it, I believe that the churches that'll also help people decide if they really should be together or not.
I love everything that you said. So we conclude yet another powerful episode of the Purpose and Powerful podcast. We look forward to connecting with you. Like, subscribe on all of our social media channels. Next week, Sunday, January 28th, we will be doing a session, Single by Force, and that is talking about the experience of divorce. Both your hosts have been through that club, and so we will share transparency from our lives about that. But thank you again for joining us, and we look to see you soon.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Tanya, for your transparency.
Enjoy being here.
We would love to have you again.
I would love to be back. Just let me know.
We will. You might one day you might come on and might not even be alone. It might be somebody right there next to you. And that I'm starting something up. I'm starting it up. Huh?
I receive it.
I speak. He's gonna be right there. That's right. Gonna be a different background too.
Stop it.
You all right?
Church about to make me run out into the congregation.
Hey. Receive it, believe it, and now it's coming. Yes, remember, I said it. I said it on the 21st of January.
I remember that you said it, and you'll be one of those first 3 invitations that go out too, sir. Mm-hmm.
That's right. That's
what
we do. It's not just a ministry. It's not just about healing. It's about helping people not only find their true authentic self and their best self, so then they can be prepared for that marriage. Yes. This is an intentional show to heal and to also help and combine and get that true relationship with not just God, but their mate. We've both been through divorce, so we know what it's like. We both have played and been played, so we know how that's like. But now it's time to do something different in 2024. All right. Thank you. This is our first official streamline. Boom. It was nice. Appreciate it. Erica, appreciate you. See you soon. And everyone have a great night.
You too. Thank you.
Have a great night.
Thank you.